Hello, welcome. This is a lesson on vectoring quadratics, trinomials. In previous unit, we talked about multiplying two binomials together. For example, x minus 2 times x plus 5 is x squared plus 3x minus 10, that sort of thing. Well, factoring is just going in the opposite direction. It's going backwards. We're given the final quadratic, x squared plus 3x minus 10, and asked to find the two factors that multiply together to get that quadratic. So we're going to follow the following steps. Step 1, make sure the expression is in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. Step 2, factor out the GCF if you have one. Find the values of a, b, and c. That's these values right here. A, b, and c is what we want to find when we're talking about a, b, and c. And then once you've got that, you're going to multiply a times c. Remember that if there is no number before that x squared, that the a value is 1. That's 1x squared. And then finally, number 5, we find two numbers that multiply to a times c and add up to b. And so we might use a chart like the one shown here. And then we either use the box method or we factor by grouping like we did in our last lesson. So you fill up your box, ax squared, px plus qx. P and q are the two numbers from step 5, the ones that we found that multiply to give a and c but add to give b. And then we find the sides, the GCF of each row and each column, and we rewrite bx as px plus qx, where p and q are the numbers from step 5. So then we have 4 terms, ax squared plus px plus qx plus c. This is the grouping method, by the way. And then we factor by grouping like we did in lesson 3.2. So let's look at what this looks like for a. Is it this in standard form? Yes, it's in standard form because the degree here is 2, and then degree 1, and then degree 0. So it's in descending order by degree. The value of a is 1. Again, there's no number there, so we understand the value of the coefficient to be 1. C is 20. And so off here to the side, we can say that a times c, 1 times 20, is 20. And b, again, this is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. And so you can see c is 20 and b is 9 and a is 1. So b, again, is 9. So then I can just list the factors. 1 times 20 is 20. 1 plus 20 is 21. And that's not 9, so we need to keep going. 2 times 2 will, so I'm just increasing to the next biggest factor. 2 will go into 20. So 2 goes into 20 10 times. That's 2 times 10 is 20, and 2 plus 10 is 12. Again, not it. So I go to 3. 3 won't go into 20, so I skip 3. 4 will go into 20. 4 goes into 25 times. 4 times 5 is 20, and 4 plus 5 is 9. That's the numbers that we're looking for, 4 and 5. So we look at I'm going to do this first using the box method. We'll do that first. So in the box method, I'm going to write the ax squared term. Again, a is just 1, so I'm just going to write x squared. X squared in the top box. And then notice the c goes in the bottom right box. And c is 20, so I'm going to put 20 down here. And then for these two boxes right here, these boxes, I'm going to put 9x in that box, but using the numbers that I found, 4 and 5. So I'm going to put plus 4x and plus 5x, because together 4x plus 5x is 9x. And so now I factor by grouping using the box method here. X squared plus 4x, their greatest common factor is x. 5x and 20, their greatest common factor is 5. X squared plus 5x, greatest common factor is x. And 4x and 20, their greatest common factor is 4. And then just real quick, I multiply x times x is x squared, 4 times x is 4x, x times 5 is 5x, and 5 times 4 is 20. So I can say with certainty there that the factors are x plus 4 times x plus 5. This is an important step. Make sure that you write your final answer as a factor, as a product of the factors, x plus 4 times x plus 5. All right, this next one, I've got 3y squared minus 4y plus 1. Again, our form here, our standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. But if it makes it easier for you to see that, you can write this as 3, I'm not 3, ay, all right. Sometimes I have problems with my screen, excuse me. All right. So it's jumping around, sorry. 3y squared, so I can rewrite this as ay squared plus by plus c, so that we're not using x, we're using y. So a is 3, and c is 1. So ac, or a times c, is 3 times 1, or just 3. And b is negative 4. And so I'm looking for numbers that multiply to AC that add to B. Now, we had done, you may have seen some of these puzzles here, so you can use this idea here. We're looking for numbers that multiply to 3 that combine to negative 4, and you can still make your lists here. If I multiply 1 times 3, see 3 is prime. When I add them, I get positive 4, but I need it to be negative. So I'm going to make this negative and negative. Negative times negative is still positive 3, but now a negative 1 plus a negative 3 is negative 4. And so those are my numbers. So this time I'm going to factor by grouping. I'm going to say 3y squared minus 1y, and then minus 3y plus 1. And this minus 4y I just rewrote as minus 1y and minus 3y. So everything in there is still the same as it was before. It has the same value. 3y squared's there, 3y squared, plus 1, everything's still there. But now I'm going to separate these out into groups like this and like this, and I'm going to put a plus sign in between. And then I'm going to factor the greatest common factor out of each group. That's y times 3y minus 1. And over here it's negative 3y and plus 1. Remember that when we have a negative leading coefficient, we want to factor out the negative. So I'm going to put negative 1 times 3y, and negative times positive 3y would give me negative 3y. And over here it would be minus 1, because a negative 1 times a negative 1 would be positive 1. Now I have that common factor of 3y minus 3y minus 1 is the common factor, so I can factor that out. And I get 3y minus 1 times y minus 1. And that is the factored form of our quadratic quadratic trinomial. All right, let's do another one. M squared plus 6m minus 16. AC, oh, I'm sorry, this puzzle, I didn't use the puzzle, but if I put -1 and -3 here, this is the puzzle. -1 times -3 is +3, and -1 plus -3 is -4. All right. So AC is -16, and B is 6. So this time I've got a negative number for my AC. So the only way that's possible is if one is positive, one of the factors is positive and the other is negative. And to decide which one I need to make positive, I look at B and it's positive. So that means I'm going to make the larger number positive. So 1 times positive 16 would be, positive 16. So I put a negative on the 1. That's -1 times positive 16 is -16. But when I add those together, -1 plus 16, I get 15. And while that's not the number we're looking for, it's not 6, it is the right sign. It's positive. So then I'm going to try 2. -2 times 8 is -16. -2 plus 8 is 6. So we found it, second try. Once you find what you're looking for, you can stop looking. So I'm going to try the factoring by grouping again here. I'm going to write m squared minus 2m plus 8m minus 16. Once again, I'm just going to highlight the idea that here this is 6m. It's positive 6m. If I combine -2m plus 8m, I get positive 6m. So I'm going to group these together and group these together and factor out an m. M times m minus 2 plus 8 times m minus 2. And common factor there's m minus 2. So I can factor out the m minus 2 times m plus 8. And that's what that factor looks like. All right, D, 2n squared plus 9n plus 4. You should always check for greatest common factor, by the way. I look at that 2 and I think, hey, maybe I can factor that 2 out. But 9 is not even, and so I can't factor out the 2. And even though the first two terms have an n, the third doesn't. So there's no GCF. So we go to A times C, AC, and that's 2 times 4, or 8. And B, and that's 9. And so I'm looking for numbers that multiply to 8 that add to 9. And I think if I try 1 times 8, that's 8. And 1 plus 8 is 9. So we found it right off the bat. That's great. So we got 2n squared plus n plus 8n. So there's the plus n is the same as plus 1n if you like to have that 1 there. Plus 1n plus 8n plus 4. And I'd just like to highlight the fact that I'm rewriting this thing exactly the same, but just with separating those two terms. 1n plus 8n is plus 9n. So now I can factor by grouping. Group these first two terms together, group these last two terms together, and then factor out an n. That'd be 2n plus 1. And factor out, let's see, 4. 4 times 2n would give me 8n, and 4 times 1 gives me 4. So the common factor is 2n plus 1, and I factor out 2n plus 1. I'm left with n here and plus 4 here. And those are our factors. All right. If we look at the next page, Sorry. If you want to pause the video and try E and F on your own, then you can unpause it and see how you did here. 3x squared plus 13x minus 10. Pause the video and come back in just a second. Okay, welcome back. AC is 3 times 10, which it has negative 10, so that's negative 30. And B is a positive 13, since that's positive 13, our larger number, our larger absolute value will be positive. So I'm going to put 1 times 30 and make the negative on the 1. And that would combine to give us 29. They subtract. And no, that's not it. Negative 2 times 15 would be negative 30. Negative 2 plus 15, 13. Excellent. We got it. So so we go here to 3x squared. This time, let's go ahead and use the box. It doesn't matter. You can choose whichever method you like, but let's see both of them. So we got 3x squared here. We got negative 10 here. And in this box, I've got minus 2x and plus 15x. And it doesn't matter where you put those. They could go in either spot. So 3x squared minus 2x, their greatest common factor would be x. And 15x and minus 10, their greatest common factor would be 5. And 3x squared and 15x, they've got 3x. And minus 2x and minus 10 would be minus 2. And then to double check, 3x plus, or I'm sorry, 3x multiplied by x is 3x squared. Negative 2 times x is minus 2x. 3x times 5 is plus 15x. And then 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And so, yes, they multiply out. That means the factors are 3x minus 2 and x plus 5. And so if you wrote x plus 5 times 3x minus 2, that's just like saying, it's exactly the same as saying 3 times 4 is equal to 4 times 3. The order of the factors does not change the product, so that's fine. And then F. Let's zoom in here a little bit. We got AC. 5 times negative 12 would be negative 60. B is negative 11. This time our larger number is going to be negative. So I'm going to take 1 times negative 60, gives me negative 59. No. 2 times negative 30 gives me negative 28. Still no. 3 times negative 10 would give me negative, no, sorry. 3 times negative 20 would give me negative 60, and 3 plus negative 20 is negative 17. Still no, although I'm getting closer, right? 4 times negative 15 would give me negative 60. 4 plus negative 15 is negative 11. Those are the numbers we're looking for. So I'm going to come over here and say, I'll do it by grouping again here. 5x squared plus 4x minus 15x and minus 12. So these terms, this negative this negative 11x is the same as 4x minus 15x. If you combine those, you get negative 11x. Word of caution. When you're grouping these together, if I put the parentheses here around those last two terms, that's not the same. it changes the sign. Negative times 15x would be negative 15x. That's fine. But negative times negative 12 would be positive 12, and 12 is not positive, it's negative. So you have to make sure you write the parentheses on the outside of that negative sign, and then put a plus sign in between the two sets of parentheses so you don't confuse them for being multiplied. These are not multiplied, you're just grouping them, and so it's addition. So then I factor the greatest common factor, and I get x times 5x plus 4. And here I've got a leading coefficient that's negative, so you want to factor out the negative. And so I factor out negative 3 times 5x. 3 times positive 5x is negative 15x. And then plus 4. Negative 3 times a positive 4 is negative 12. And I see my common factor is 5x plus 4, and I factor that out. 5x plus 4 times x minus 3. And those are our factors. All right, thank you. Practice, practice, practice. You got this.